leads it. Second place is his teammate, Danny Sullivan. Michael Andretti, the defending champion, is third, then his father, Mario, and then Teo Fabi in that Porsche-powered machine. Only the Penske team run on the leader lap. We'll be right back. Paul Page with Sam Posey and Bobby Unser as Rick Mears is still the leader. Car number 5, 120 miles, now complete. We have been green flag right from the go. And the problem has developed with tires. The tires are beginning to blister, and that's causing problems for everybody, except, it seems, for Rick Mears. We look at the points as they stand at this moment. Danny Sullivan would still lead, but Bobby Rahal up in second, Al Unser Jr. sitting in third. Rick Mears has improved his situation substantially, and the points obviously have closed down. We talked about driver's mood and pressure, Sam Posey. What would it be now?
Well, I think the way things are looking, with Sullivan pulling away, the focus now becomes on his stretch drive to the championship. You know, I talked to Danny a good deal before the race, and I think the key, and I think it's going to get even better for him, because I believe Rahal is in trouble. I think I see him out there. But in any case, Sullivan has pulled his light into really a sharp focus. As he himself said, it's no longer a question of big city, big lights, bright lights. He is a racing driver who needs very badly. We see Rahal here, seems to be okay, so I may have misread that. He is a man who needs, he doesn't, no, it is trouble.
He was out of the situation and came to the inside line. So Bobby Rahal, it seems like it's running very rough as he comes down to the pit area. Bobby, perhaps you can add an analysis.
Well, you can see the steering wheel shaking an awful lot. He could have another tire problem. Let's just see if he gets tires or whether he shuts the engine off here, Paul.
Well, Bobby Rahal, car number 1. 2 years in a row, he's been the car champion. Let's go to the pits again.
Well, Paul, it is indeed at least tire related. They came in and they changed tires about 5 laps previously, and he was still complaining of a serious vibration in the car. They've taken some what they call corner weight out of the back of the car, and now they're trying to reduce the tire pressures in hopes that they can solve the tire problem for Bobby Rahal. Back up to you.
Again, Bobby Unser, the situation is trying to get that chassis in balance so that all the tires will bite the surface and give it traction.
It certainly is, and if you'll notice all the camber, in other words, how far that right front tire leans in at the top, what's happening is the center of the tire is blistering, Paul, and one of the heel-up deals for that is to lower the air pressure down so the center doesn't push as hard against the road, more along the outside edges of the tires.
To finish the thought, as we see Bobby Rahal back up to speed, about Danny Sullivan and why what is happening to him right now as we watch this race is so significant. Danny Sullivan knows he's rich enough. He knows he's famous enough. You see Rick Mears flying into the pits, the leader coming into the pits. What Danny Sullivan hasn't yet proven, even to himself, is that he is really a great champion racing driver. In Miami in a few weeks, he may be able to prove that and put that to rest. You see Rick Mears' pit stop as Emerson Fittipaldi has.
We watch Rick Mears as he rolls out, and just down the pits, not far from this point, Emerson Fittipaldi was making a stop and lost the car and did a quick spin. Fortunately, he didn't touch anything, but he did it right, as you can see, at an entranceway, and everyone jumped back out of the way. Now, it looks as if the situation is safe, and because this did not occur on the race course, there is not a yellow out. But Emerson Fittipaldi, terrible struggle this day, now runs in 9th, and with this stop drops even further backwards. He was the first to identify, or at least react visibly to that tire blistering problem, coming in very early on, and has then dropped back steadily, and now has worked his way up to 9th, and now he's back in here again, Bobby.
He's really having a bad day. They even lowered the car on him before the guy had the right rear on. So they're just not with it today. Looks like his chassis was sitting wrong. He's had it bad all day.
Second place, Danny Sullivan comes in. Let's go to Jack.
And a quick survey of the tire situation on Danny Sullivan's car looks as if indeed they may have not cured the problem but got it under control. Not a lot of serious blisters, but a report was that Danny may have had some sort of problem with his eye, an obstruction in it. They were going to give him a water bottle to spray it out, wash it out. They elected not to, and he's off and away after changing 4. Back to you.
So Danny Sullivan, who had picked up the lead briefly there right after Rick Mears stopped, rolls back into the action. Rick Mears falls to second. Michael Andretti runs in third. He has not yet stopped, as has Mario Andretti.
Interesting small point, you know, Danny is a part owner of this track along with Roger Penske.
But Danny Sullivan rolls out of the pits and back into the competition. 130 miles are complete. Roger Penske continues to keep his team under control. As we take a look at Roger Penske's situation this year, they have certainly been a factor, and that factor has translated into dollars, but even more importantly for both of his drivers, translated into championship points. Well, it's Danny Sullivan at the top of that order right now, and Rick Mears running back in the 4th position in the points.
Paul, both of the Penske cars are on the same lap together, and the only 2 cars that are on the same lap, and that pit stop was too early. That was a scheduled, non-scheduled stop. In other words, they would have liked to have gone on around 140 laps. But what happens is they can make it to the end just barely, and so they were trying to get a tire reading. How hard are they really being on their tires? Everybody that's fast today is driving the race predicated on the right side tires.
We watch Rick Mears. Just ahead of him is Danny Sullivan. So with that stop, Danny Sullivan was able to maintain his lead. So there's going to be a lot of ribbing going on between Chuck Sprague, the crew chief for Sullivan, and Peter Parrott, the crew chief for Mears. The Sullivan crew was quick on both stops and have kept their driver out in the lead. And that's exactly what we alluded to. Those teams, the pit crews, are under tremendous pressure in their own right because they are, in fact, capable of grabbing a position and supporting that position as they've done here.
Well, the crews are under pressure not only to prepare a perfect car, but then to execute the perfect pit stops once the race begins. And it's interesting, the rivalry between the 2 Penske crews and how they like to try to get one up on each other. And until yesterday, when Sullivan seized the pole from Rick Mears, here's A.J. Foyt at the end of pit lane.
He slowed down
for this trouble.
As Foyt slowed down and came into the pits, the pace car begins to roll. The yellow is out for the first time of the day because we have a car, young John Andretti, against the wall about halfway through the 4th turn. He undoes the steering wheel and begins to unsnap his harness and climb out. So obviously he is not injured. It's right side damage, though severe to the car. Young John Andretti climbs out of what, in all likelihood, is his last ride of this season. So John Andretti brings out the first yellow at 136 miles. The leader is Danny Sullivan, followed by Mears, then the Andretti family, and Teo Fabi. Plug Grand Prix, 139 laps complete. We are under yellow. Take a look at the top 5 in the field. The 98 car, Michael Andretti's curb machine, is on the hook. This was just a second ago. John Andretti is up in the back of the car, and he slides over. Now watch him. What he's looking for is Derek Daly, who apparently John Andretti feels was part of the conflict that brought John against the wall, and he points at him as if, you know what you did. Well, of course, on this circuit, we don't know exactly what the situation was, but apparently when you're running that close, things do happen. Now, the IndyCar drivers are benefit of great safety technology. One of those is the Horton Safety Team.
Like any medical clinic anywhere in the country, the Horton Safety Team Center takes care of sore throats, broken wrists, and the common cold. But here, the doctors wear fire suits, and the patients are all involved in racing.
90% of what we do is general medicine, family medicine. We're the family doctors to the CART community, and since our community travels from venue to venue every other weekend, we have to take our practice with us, and this is our office. It's where we do our general thing.
Then there is the other 10% of their work, and for that, the facility goes from clinic to emergency room in no time at all.
We're equipped to do pretty much anything that could be done in a inner-city hospital emergency room for the worst of eventualities. Whatever comes through the door, we can take care of.
The unit is equipped with state-of-the-art technology, including a complete computerized medical history on all members. 3 doctors, a nurse, and a dozen firemen and paramedics travel to each race. But what impact have they had upon safety?
We're able to provide better care, more rapid care, rehabilitate people more quickly, and we've raised the consciousness in all the other racing venues that they can do better because this is the best it gets. And we set an example for what ought to be everywhere.
This professional approach has produced positive results. Statistics show quicker response and recovery from injuries, and for a driver, that means less time away from the sport.
Back on the course now, yellow flag. Danny Sullivan leads it. You look just ahead from Bobby Rahal's car, still rolling on the course. Under yellow, the fuel economy is better. Let's get a full update on the fuel situation. Here again is Jack.
Well, Paul, with all of these pit stops, and some of them unscheduled, and especially during this caution, fuel, which normally would not come into play here in this race, now does. Listen to this. Just about empty. That's Rick Mears. Right behind me is Danny Sullivan. He has about 10 gallons. But what's more important about what's going on in the Penske team right now is a conversation that Roger had with Derek Walker, the team manager for both Rick Mears and Danny Sullivan. He said, look, we're running first and second. We've got to be concerned, one, about tires, and two, about the situation with Michael Andretti in third. What should we do? Set a fast pace, set a slow pace? They said, let's try and set a little bit slower pace, but let's keep our eyes on Michael Andretti. If he starts to come in within striking distance, we'll pick the speed up and gamble on the fuel. Back to you.
Of course, Michael Andretti definitely within striking distance, lying in third place now, and with this yellow closes right up in the pack. As they came across the line under yellow, he was a mere 9 seconds back. When they come back to speed, he's going to be a whole lot closer.
Paul, that's the first time I think we've ever heard maybe that Penske is doing a game plan in between Rick Mears and Danny Sullivan, or within his own team. Usually they're totally separate. They go for broke any way they can do it. It looks like now, being he's got first and second, that he's using the team to start worrying about Michael Andretti.
We watch Danny Sullivan as he picks the pace up now. Nick Finoro, the starter, has the green flag. It flies, and we are back to racing after the first and only yellow of this race so far. 144 miles of the 200 complete. And Danny Sullivan pulls just a bit away from his teammate Rick Mears. The key now becomes both Rick and Michael Andretti. More so Rick, because he is definitely in the points fight as we look at the top of the order.
Do you think, Bobby, speaking of the team aspect of it, that Roger would restrain Rick at this stage so as to get Danny the win and get in the points?
Sam, I never believed that would happen, but if we see that Rick doesn't make an attempt on... now, here's Michael into the pits. This is that third-place car they were worried about.
Decisive.
So this could change the thinking that I was just starting to talk about.
Whoa!
Michael Andretti with a quick pass through and an official there. So it probably had something to do with an official calculation rather than a pit stop.
Stop and go penalty. It just had to be, because that's all he wanted to do, is stop the tires from rotating for a second then on. But that really took Michael, put him in a bad position because it's under the green flag lap. But now we'll have to see, as I started to say, Sam, is Rick going to try to pass Danny Sullivan? If he does, that means that they're going for broke. If he doesn't, that means that Penske's running in from the pits.
Well, Michael Andretti in and out of the pits. Danny Sullivan still leads. Let's go to the pits. Brian Hammond.
The reason for the stop-and-go penalty was a pit entrance violation. CART called him in, got the stop and go. He's back out on the track, but a pit entrance violation is what the stop-and-go was all about. Paul?
Well, pit violations have become factors in a couple of races this year, perhaps most notably when Danny Sullivan was leading at Toronto, where almost everyone in the field was called for a violation of just drifting out over a line that they wanted as an absolute barrier between the main straightaway and the pits. You see Danny Sullivan and Rick Mears now closed down behind Michael Andretti, who will